Hello everyone, how you going? And welcome to 10 small towns Canadians don't want you to know about. A bit abbreviated, but we all understand, hidden gems, diamonds in the rough, and really just places that you just need to get to.
There are a whole host of benefits of moving to Canada, both lifestyle-wise and just opportunity-wise. And you may be wondering where to move, whether you're just looking at Canada thinking, should I move to a big city? Should I move to a smaller town? Should I choose East Coast, West Coast, Ontario? Where should I go? This video is going to help you out, but specifically we're going to be looking at the small towns that can supercharge your lifestyle and make you enjoy every moment of your new life here in Canada. Yeah. This is the top 15 small towns in Canada for 2021-22.
Well, even right out of the gate here, we are seeing some pretty incredible views. Honestly, I would say that that's just the northern beaches of Sydney. Like, it looks identical. I can only imagine the water's going to be a little bit colder because Canada's waters, I can only imagine, are a little bit colder. But regardless, it looks like a beautiful place, nice and green, incredible oceans, like I said. Actually, I have just noticed they're driving on the left, so is that even Canada? It kind of can't be, considering they are clearly driving on the left side of the road and not the right. And so now I'm wondering, is this actually the east side of Australia? Because it certainly looks like it could be. For goodness sake, you've got like Land Cruisers down here and solar panels on the roof, and so maybe it is. Anyway, a bit weird, but let's just continue with Canada.
Now, before we get started, let me show you my small town of Peterborough, Ontario. Well, technically Lakefield, Ontario, and if I can get my drone to working, go right up into the sky, you can see how beautiful it is, how much nature you get. And if I told you we got 4 acres of land for around $200,000, mind you, it was about 8 or 9 years ago, and built this up, and now this property has inflated very close, most likely, to $1 million in just 7 or 8 years, you'd be gobsmacked. You'd say, oh my God. You would say, I want to get started in rural Canada.
I mean, if nothing else, I have to say that that is a very good investment, but it also looks like a beautiful place to live. Like you said, you got 4 acres in the middle of nature. You can kind of do what you want in terms of relaxing and all those kind of things, unless there is just a major highway just on the other side of this entire camera shot, then it might be a little bit different, but I can only assume not. I mean, from this image, it does look quite green and fairly representative of what he showed us in terms of the rectangles and bales of hay and those kind of areas as well. Not too cold, not too busy, but not that far away either.
So the places that found their way onto this list earned their respective spots by offering scenic views, unpretentious atmospheres, and exceptional attractions. The trifecta of the perfect small town, in my opinion. While there are plenty of reasons to visit big cities, traveling to small towns provides a special experience for travelers who really want to get to know a place. And there's usually no need for detailed itineraries and long-winded tour guide books, because in a small town, the best adventures are discovered just by wandering around on foot or taking the time to talk to locals. So,
okay, look, I agree with everything, but I cannot believe I just saw someone rolling down the street in the bike lane. I mean, I guess fair enough and fair play, but I can't say I've ever seen that besides maybe Newtown. I mean, I guess it does look like a shared pathway. I thought that was the left and the right side of the road, but it looks like there's some kind of diamond, pedestrian, and arrow, but then there's rollerblades and a bike, and so I guess it's a full shared pathway. Just do whatever you want as long as you don't have 4 wheels and a motor.
So, here are some places you might want to consider. Number 1, Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario. With a lively food scene, quaint bed and breakfasts, and spectacular golf courses, Niagara-on-the-Lake is a small town with a population of 17,511. Nestled on the southern shores of Lake Ontario, not far from Niagara Falls, this scenic town is a popular tourist destination in the summer months. The long days, warm weather, scenic countryside, and lively downtown make for the perfect getaway. And also, Niagara-on-the-Lake is a very popular day trip from Toronto, so you may want to give it a shot. Coffee.
I can only imagine that he actually knows that place because he didn't seem to be that far away from Toronto either. I mean, the fact that it does only have 17 or I guess and a half thousand people is certainly not going to cater to everyone, as some people really do love that metropolitan just hustle and bustle of this entire city brings. But honestly, the wide streets, the older architecture, and then even just the greenery in this entire shot we have here definitely reminds me of a few Australian rural towns. On the Lake Ontario, here it is, just a little bit north. Hey, fair enough. I don't know if you would really call that a small town considering how close it is to Niagara Falls, and wow, it literally just across the Lake Ontario all the way to Toronto. I wonder if they run a ferry like this. Oh wow, United States and Canada. I thought that was a ferry line, but no, that is an international border. But wow, I guess they really are just segmented away from this. Look at this. This is what I was expecting. Going, how can you be considered just a little town when you got something like that? But not St. Catharines. And then 5 minutes down the road, you just come over here and you got just a little small town. Beautiful.
Number 2, it's in one of my favorite places because I lived there for 6 years, Nova Scotia. This is Mahone Bay. Now, close your eyes and try to imagine the perfect maritime town. Chances are what you're picturing is pretty close to what Mahone Bay looks like. Think charming churches, delightful shops, and houses painted the colors of Easter eggs.
Wow.
Located in Nova Scotia's Lunenburg County, Mahone Bay's population is estimated at 1,036, but the number keeps on growing. Mahone Bay has the distinction of being the fastest growing municipality in the province, and historically Mahone Bay was a shipbuilding town. You'll see many nods to its heritage as you wander around.
Probably because if it's up there, then you're just going to be having about, 50-meter tides? No, I think it was actually, 12 to 15-meter tides up in there. I mean, I was a bit taken aback when he said that only 1,000 people live here. I didn't really expect that number to be on this list. I thought they were going to have to be bigger than that, but I guess they are hidden gems. Even down to the fact that a whole bundle of houses are painted funky colors, I'm fairly sure even in some parts of the world that there are laws against that. And actually, didn't Canada have a law against painting your house purple? I don't know if you can really get away with that one on the left there. It kind of has purple architraves if nothing else. Definitely looks like a small town. Once again, of course, there is plenty of greenery around because half of Canada is just built on a lake. But oh wow, okay, it's over there. I expected it to be over the west side, not the east side. So I guess in that case, they aren't going to have the same crazy title changes that the Bay of Fundy bring. But I can only imagine that up here, given what the Bay of Fundy does, you would also have some pretty decent title changes. And I mean, there are plenty of other tiny little suburbs or whatever you would call these. I guess, are they even towns? No, that's not a town. That is literally just a suburb or whatever you want to call it. But then this, I can see how there is only 1,000 people here because there's certainly not that many houses, is there?
Okay, and number 3 on our list is Ucluelet, British Columbia. Just south of the world's most famous surf mecca of Tofino lies a small town with a lot to offer, Ucluelet.
Wow.
Situated on the rugged west coast of Vancouver Island, Ucluelet offers many of the same attractions as Tofino: surfing, beaches, beautiful resorts and lodges, fishing, hiking, whale watching with fewer crowds, and there are art galleries to pursue, spas for the indulgent treat, and restaurants that are true hidden gems. The estimated 1,717 people who call Ucluelet home know how awesome it is to be there.
Hang on a second, isn't he just currently showing footage of a bald eagle? I don't really get that because I don't think Canada has any real ties to the bald eagle. I don't know if they have any laws protecting it like the USA does, but come on, that's like the USA's thing. Don't be showing that in a Canadian video, and especially because it's like they have spas and food and stuff. Like, yeah, I'd certainly hope so, even if they do only have 1,000 and something population. But no, to be fair to the situation, when I see an image like this, I go, that is absolutely Canada. It certainly has no trace elements of Australia in it. Yes, it has beach and yes, it has water, but that's about it. Everywhere else, it's just pine trees lining the banks of the entire ocean. And go, nah, that is definitely Canada for me. And look, there really isn't anything else to say besides that it's utterly beautiful. I would like a bit more resolution just to be able to really appreciate it, but you can see the kind of environment they are in, the beautiful water, just the rock crawling, and even be able to take dogs there. That is something that Australia really lacks for some reason. And I mean, once again, I'll give it a search in a second to see exactly where it is, but there is no way I would have known how to pronounce that. There are so many different combinations because they said it's Ucluelet, but I feel as though there's like Ucluelet, or I don't know, there's so many different ways you could pronounce that word, and I wonder where its root comes from. But let's have a zoom out and just see where this bad boy is. Okay, so it's all the way over there on Vancouver Island. Once again, I had no idea whereabouts it was going to be, but zooming back in, it kind of has its own peninsula, and so I guess all the waterways over here would kind of be shielded, but the other side is just pure Pacific Ocean.
Number 4, Yukon is becoming more popular, especially with many of the immigration programs out there that are starting, especially all over northern Canada in general. Yeah. Dawson City, Yukon. Though its population today stands at 1,375, the historical town of Dawson City hasn't always been so small. At the peak of the Klondike Gold Rush in the late 19th century, more than 16,000 people lived in Dawson City, hoping to share in the fortunes. Yeah. Most of these people eventually left and settled elsewhere, but Dawson City remains the second largest community in the Yukon.
Well, honestly, I'm just being impressed about what he is pulling out. I mean, maybe it's just a bit of a Google search and it's not too hard to find these places, but I guess you have to kind of know where to look for, and he keeps finding places with only 1,000 population. Like, I couldn't think of that many places in Australia that have 1,000 population that I can think of. I'm sure I could find them, but I would have to literally go out of my way to find them, where these guys are just all over Canada, the second biggest country in the world, so they certainly have a bit of spread, and this one in particular, because it's up in Yukon, so even though it is a little bit green right there, I can only imagine it would get so cold, and that river I can only imagine would freeze over. Is that right? Am I thinking correctly? Dawson City, UT? Yeah, Yukon? I don't really know. Okay, yeah, that looks pretty brown. Oh yeah, see, that is pretty darn north. We were just down in Vancouver Island, we've been over here, and then we go all the way up here, definitely just in the Yukon territory. Look at that kind of insane geography. Dawson City, right on that incredible river. What is it? The Yukon River. That is itself. Okay. Oh, and wow, look at this geology. That is insane. Is that what led them to the gold rush, or is that no, I wouldn't say that's the result of the gold rush, surely. I mean, looking at this entire thing, I'm not too sure where 16,000 people would have fit, considering it's now only 1,000, but maybe that's where they were living, all of this area, just sprawled in the rocks, just looking for gold. Ooh, what is even Midnight Dome? Is there any photos from there? Oh, that's a pretty nice spot. Look at that. Is there any that are in the winter time? Because that would be certainly interesting. There we go. Even though there's a few pixels missing, I can get the general idea, and that certainly wouldn't be just middle of winter, I can only assume. But hey, there is no two ways about it. That is definitely a nice view, and I would love to see a comparison between summer and winter, and especially just visiting winter, because that's what Australia lacks. So I want to kind of just go to the other end of the spectrum if I'm gonna just commit to a place like that, all the way up that north.
Number 5 is Victoria by the Sea, Prince Edward Island. Victoria by the Sea is officially the smallest town on this list of exceptional small towns, with a population of just 74, though the number inflates in the summer, as seasonal residents make their migration. In a province full of lovely seaside towns, Victoria by the Sea is in a league of its own. The town is small and easily walkable, and every shop you see is worth a visit, especially the famous chocolate shop. You'll want to say Victoria by the Sea for a summer visit, as this already quiet town is extra sleepy in the winter. If you're planning a trip to PEI, it's definitely worth spending a day.
I mean, I will have to search it up to see exactly how big this one is, because they only have 74 kind of semi-permanent, permanent residents, whatever you want to call them. It's pretty insane. I didn't know you could really function as a town with only that many people. I mean, he did say that it inflates during the summertime, and so I wonder what it gets up to. What, does it get up to 200 or something like that? I have no idea, or maybe the tourism included, it gets close to the others, like 1,000. Woo, crazy numbers. But then looking at this shot, you can certainly see that there aren't too many buildings around it, so I'm wondering, how does it manage its kind of importation? You know, is it connected to another bigger town that it kind of imports via a road or even via a boat for all I care? Victoria by the Sea, PE? Is that what PEI is? I guess that would make sense, just omitting the island part of Prince Edward Island, but let's see. Okay, so it's down there and it's looking very red. I wonder why that is. Is that grain, or is that, I don't know, is that the actual soil color? Because that's like some outback Australia kind of color. Look at that. That's just unnaturally red. I mean, having a look at some other maps, it completely changes the color spectrum that we're working on. I mean, I do like when you can see the clouds just cast a shadow, but yeah, I guess there is a bit of color there, but nothing like Google. My goodness, I don't know where that color came from. Either way, the bird's eye view hasn't miraculously made more buildings appear. We can certainly still see that there is not that many people, and I guess that makes sense how only 75 people can live there. And so now I'm wondering, how many shops can there possibly be to visit? Because he said you have to visit all of them, and that there is also a full day in it, but if there's only 5 shops, then you're going to be spending a decent amount of time in each shop.
This is Jasper, Alberta. Whether you're hiking the Rockies in the summer or skiing them in the winter, Jasper is an adventurer's dream destination, and it may be the next place you want to live. The list of Jasper's top activity reads like an avid explorer's bucket list: trekking to alpine lakes, going on a wildlife tour, chasing waterfalls, exploring ice canyons, dog sledding, ice skating on a frozen lake. The list goes on and on. About 4,500 people have managed to make Jasper a permanent lifestyle, and there's a good chance that you can too.
See, when he says things like that, it does make me wonder, as me as an Australian resident, can I just go over there and buy a piece of land and live there? Obviously visas and everything are dealt with, but in terms of some of these towns, surely are just so remote and kind of locked off that no one ever sells. You're not allowed in because you're not just 5th generation, or you're not Canadian or anything like that, and you really just cannot get in unless you're a very particular group or person in particular. Because these kind of places just absolutely blow me away. Just these mountain ranges just right on this, I can only assume, lake with the pine trees. Once again, like I was saying, I can only assume they're pine trees. Let me know if they're not, but just a lifestyle that is solely centered around the geology and the nature that surrounds you. You know, like you said, you can just go on an adventure's paradise, whether it's hiking, trekking, skiing, snowboarding, canoeing, boating. It literally has virtually everything I feel as though anyone could ever think of in terms of just like summer, winter, holiday sports. Let alone the fact that, let's say somehow this is your front door, you just get an incredible view. Like, that is insane. I don't really feel as though there is anywhere in Australia that can provide that level of what this does. Look at that. In the middle of all these mountain ranges, once again, you can see the clouds just forming on the peaks of the mountains, and even the shadows that are cast across these incredible mountains, and even just the color of this water. Look at that. Is that glacier water? It has to be, surely. A little bit more feasible to live, because like you said, there are 4,500 people that live here and not 74, and so you have a bit more variety and a little bit more just economy of scale, if nothing else. I mean, I can only imagine fuel and those kind of things isn't going to be the cheapest if you live in any of these smaller towns. Actually, is that a rail line? That is a serious train. Look at what the holy moly. Look how long this train is. That is insane. I'm not going to sit here and count all those carriages, but look, it just goes on and on and on and on. And there's a few there as well. So I guess in that way, you probably don't have any problems with economy of scale, because look at this. Holy moly, this thing is insane. I wonder where they're going and why they're going through there. I guess it snakes through? I never even thought about Canada's just entire rail network. That is just ridiculous. I mean, I know they built it. I watched an entire heritage medal on that fact, but just to see it in action like this, oh, that is a lot of transport.
Number 7, we can say it like Saint-Sauveur, Quebec, but we can also say it like Saint-Sauveur, Quebec. Situated in the heart of the Laurentian Mountains, Saint-Sauveur, with a population of almost 10,000, might be one of the most adorable villages in all of Quebec. Though it's less than an hour from Montreal, Saint-Sauveur feels every bit like the secluded mountain town, especially after a fresh snowfall. There are 6 ski resorts in the area, and we'll do the math for you. You could stay a week and ski somewhere new almost every day. That being said, if you want to move to this small town, if you speak French, that's going to be a plus. I would not recommend moving to Quebec, even Montreal, not permanently, without at least speaking French and being fluent in French.
Hang on a second, I definitely have seen, heard, and have plenty of examples of Quebec speaking more than only French. I mean, for goodness sake, they're living in Canada. They definitely have a lot of French history and heritage and influence, but they're not solely French speaking. You don't have to be fluent, surely. If he's talking about just this one town, I go, okay, maybe I can't speak of that, but my goodness, all of Quebec, just don't move there permanently unless you can speak French? I don't know about that one. I mean, feel free to correct me, because maybe my examples are actually coming from a different part of Canada, but even like there was a Macazad that was made for French speakers, but it also had English, for goodness sake. But either way, just having a quick little look about where it is. Let's have a look. It's over in, Quebec, obviously, down the south. That's good to know as well. So it's not going to be too cold, but wow, it is cold enough to just have 7 ski resorts just around it, I guess. I believe he said it was 10,000 people live in this one, and you can definitely see more of a smattering of houses around, but yeah, fair enough. Oh yeah, there we go. Ski resort, ski resort, ski resort, ski resort. I never knew what these are, and I probably would have thought they were golf courses until I saw a video of houses and went, oh, wow, that is a ski summit Olympia.
And number 8 on our list is Golden, British Columbia. The interior of BC has more than a few small laid-back mountain towns that are all worthy of a place on this list, but Golden wins our gold medal. In terms of geography, Golden has got it all. 2 major rivers, Columbia and Kicking Horse, 3 epic mountain ranges, and 5 major national parks in the vicinity. For many of its 3,700 residents, life in Golden involves making the most of the surrounding mountains. You can hike in the summer, ski and snowboard at Kicking Horse Mountain Resort, or in the backcountry if you want in the winter, and you can enjoy the stunning vistas 365 days of the year.
What are those rings that I was seeing in the bottom of fair? I have no idea what they could be unless there's something to do with fishing, but then why would they be rainbow colored? It almost looks like they should be lifted up and planes fly through them or something like that. Either way, incredible landscape once again. Canada just rolls off the tongue in terms of you just go, oh yeah, another mountain range, oh yeah, another lake, oh yeah, another ski resort. This is like constant. I don't know how you don't get bored of just incredible things. I mean, with a name like Golden, it's pretty insane. Golden, British Columbia, Canada. Look at this skydive extreme. Everyone is around, even got all the ski runs, but this is looking very familiar to where we were before. Oh wow, it's right next to Banff, and then there we go, Jasper up there. So oh yeah, it's all in the same era. That entire place is just insane. I feel as though that is one of the places that I just have to visit because it is so alien to me, but it's so awesome. And once again, at least it isn't just a tiny town. You know, if you had these small towns, they just wouldn't exist with 75 people, not out in the middle of nowhere like this. I mean, for goodness sake, I've just noticed they have their own runway, and so maybe if you are using a bit more of a holiday destination and you don't want to be driving for, I don't know, 10 hours from the middle of, where would you be going from? Vancouver? Is that the closest? How long is that going to take? Because I have no sense of scale. Yeah, 7 hours. I feel like you want to be flying that if you're going to be doing it a lot, even if you're not going to be doing it a lot.
Number 9, we hear a lot about New Brunswick, but what about those more secretive places that no one talks about? This is Alma, New Brunswick.
Alma.
Just outside of Fundy National Park is the tiny fishing village of Alma, with a population of 232. Alma is the gateway to world-famous high tides of the Bay of Fundy. It's also a great spot to grab a bite to eat after a hike in the park. You can try the sticky buns, they're pretty good. The town raves about them, and it's for a good reason. The nearby Cape Enrage Nature Preserve is a special natural attraction with towering cliffs, rocky beaches, and an iconic lighthouse. It's the kind of place where you could easily spend hours exploring, or it may be the next destination. you choose to live.
Now look, I guess I can look up exactly where this one is, but he did allude exactly where it was in terms of the Bay of Fundy, and I know how insane this is, and I definitely wanted to visit there at some point in time, but my goodness, to live there would be a pretty insane experience as well. Either way, a very small town, to the point though that he doesn't even show any footage of the town. You know, every other town at least was able to get a couple of images in there, and he just shows, I guess, the lake and some trees, and that's about it. The power lines. Let's just have a quick little look where this guy is. Yep, right. Oh, I was about to say right up the top, and it kind of is up the top, not right up the top like this guy or anyone over here, but my goodness, you would get some serious tides over there, wouldn't you, up in Alma? Yeah, I can see how you wouldn't be fitting too many people in all of those houses, and hey, that's just fine. When you're living in a remote town, you're living in a remote town for a reason.
Number 10. If you're a Canadian, you've heard of it before. This is Churchill, Manitoba. Fun fact, there are about as many polar bears in the western Hudson Bay area around Churchill as there are permanent residents of Churchill, which are around 1,000. And a second fun fact, there are 60 times as many belugas. So many belugas. Polar bears are the primary attraction of this very northerly small town. Tourists flock to Churchill in the late fall to capture a glimpse of the majestic white bears, often planning side adventures for viewing the northern lights. There are two ways you can get to Churchill. You can fly in, it's just 2 hours from Winnipeg, or you can catch a train in. I think it's 2 days from Winnipeg. Now, driving is not really an option. There are no roads. It's really remote, and we did mention that at the beginning of the video.
What is striking me the most is, why is every house here the same? I mean, you've got smaller versions of the same house, but then you've got double stories that are identical. Like, I get it. There's some sort of cookie cutter nature of the houses, but really? Like, identical? Everyone lives in exactly the same house? That's weird, isn't it? Isn't it weird? I mean, maybe they are just so remote that no other blueprints ever made it to them, but I'm just so confused. Why is that a thing? And the other thing that I was saying is, that is not a beluga. That is a whale shark. So why is he putting up footage of a whale shark when he's talking about all the belugas that are around? Here it is, the beluga whale. See, that is a very, very different creature to the whale shark. I mean, I guess we should also have a look about where this place is. Churchill, Manitoba. I can only assume that's right. Churchill Airport. He did say you can fly into it. Ooh, okay, so all the way up there in the Hudson Bay, nowhere near Nova Scotia. For some reason, I was thinking he was over there. I mean, I'm sure he also said it, but I just didn't have that in my head. And it's interesting that he said you can't drive, but you can catch the train in, and it takes 2 days from, where was it, Vancouver? Or alright, so he was talking about Winnipeg, and he said it is 2 hours flight from Winnipeg. Yes, that's fine, but then 2 days on the train. Like, really? Who is going to be taking the train? I mean, unless you're really tight for budget, or you need to move a lot of stuff, surely no one is taking the train. Especially not a distance like that. Like, let's see how far it is. Surely it's got to be like 2,000k or something. Okay, it's 1,000k. Well, yeah, I can understand that, but 1,000k by a rail, that's a long way. But hey, this was honestly an awesome video, because I got to see so much of Canada, a place that is so varied, because it has so many lakes, but also the world's longest coastline. And even though, like I was saying, a whole bundle of these places are going to be a little bit too remote for some people, you know, a lot of people do love the convenience of having multiple millions of people around them to support them and prop them up with goods and everything else. But if you can manage to live in some of these places, honestly, and you walk out your front door and you see those kind of sights every day, there is no wonder why people would actually live there. So I guess if nothing else, just one day have to try and visit these incredible places, because who would want to pass up on a view like that, let alone all its activities. But anyway, in saying that, I reckon I'm going to call it there. So thank you for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, feel free to the YouTube algorithm things down below. Also, if this is the first video of mine that you are watching, then make sure to go check out any other ones I've done. Also, make sure to go check out the original video down in the description below. Or hey, maybe even just want to consider subscribing so that you don't miss another one of these in the future. But all in all, have a good one and see ya.